and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christine, your host, and today we're talking about the gift guide, ultimate gifts to give a picky eater. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the holidays and, looking at all of the toys that they have on Amazon and in the catalogs. And, we're really focusing on other types of fun activities, but we can incorporate food in some way to that. And the more, it doesn't have to be kitchen related fun things. We're talking games and books and different things that we can use to get our kids ready for food and advance their food in different ways, right? So we might be able to get them some things that sensory wise might help them to eat and enjoy food a little bit more. You don't have to get them things like forks and spoons and bowls, but there's lots of different options out there maybe you haven't considered. So we're going to talk about some of them today and give you some ideas on how you can incorporate food outside of the kitchen and into their play with toys. So, um, and I love toys that have a purpose behind them, that they're not just, things that like yap at you all day and require lots of batteries. Like those are not really the types of toys I love anyway. I really try to get things that can be used in multiple ways that help kids, use hand-eye coordination or art or, cause for smaller child, it's cause and effect toys. For older kids, it's things like Legos and building and STEM toys where you're like, or science experiment type things where you're like making something or learning something. It's not just, more of the same. A lot of kids have, uh, you know, boxes and rooms full of things that they're not using. It's exciting for the day, maybe for the week, if you're lucky, the month. And then it gets pushed to the side with all of the other toys in the toy graveyard, as I call it. So I find the more practical toys and the more, like life connection type things really stand the test of time and become more of a part of the entire year, just instead of that quick sort of thrill factor of like opening the present, playing with them, and then forgetting about them. Um, these are great for all sorts of holidays, right? Not just Christmas, but it could be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and anything. It could even just be a birthday. Okay. So, of course, there's things like utensils and plates. I would say those would only be good for kids that don't know anything about the holidays yet and they have no idea what's going on. Because you're not going to get away with that with a kid that's expecting toys, right? So, um, there are few cute things that potentially you can get away with it becoming part of a gift. And there's a few really cute things. So what I'm thinking of is they have like this cute, I think it's Jolly Club that makes it, but there's like a cute dinosaur fork and spoon set. But like when you press it, he opens his mouth so like he can grab the food, and then you could use that to put in your mouth. And then the opposite end is like the spoon and the fork. So that's a cool one. And I'm sure you've seen this too. They have like the construction vehicle utensils where you're like scooping or digging. Those definitely you can get away with, I would say. Beyond that, I don't know of anything that's cool, quote unquote, cool enough for kids to think that that's, would pass as a present. Um, I think those can definitely make the cut though. And the Jolly Club, they come in like purple and green. So like the purple ones could be great for a girl. Although my son loves the color purple, so he'd actually prefer purple to green anyway. But the point is that, I know they sound more like boy toys, but girls definitely would enjoy them as well. Now, other things, sensory friendly items. So all of our kids have usually something going on with sensory. I tend to find visual and then the mouth, like gustatory, are the two sensory areas, and sometimes smell, olfactory. Those three areas can be most heightened and most obvious, I would say. Whether they're over or under sensitive, I find that those areas come up a lot with picky eaters. Just an observation. Um, but you can get things that might really be helpful to those sensory systems, right? So it's really, I mean, it's hard because I don't know your kids what their sensory system is, but they do have things like, for proprioception, a weighted vest or weighted apron, or you know, something that they could wear. They do have like seat things that if they're always like slip and sliding in their seat or moving, they do have some kind of cool, like not they're definitely not bouncy seats. They're like almost have like a bumpy texture. And you can put it at their feet or they can sit on it and it does help them to sit a little bit better, but they might think that that's pretty cool. And it might help regulate them when they're in their seat. Okay. Um, Also sensory friendly things. It can be like, so it could be something to give them to like with their hands to keep their hands like a little bit busy, almost like a fidget toy. So those can be good. There's also sensory things that like slime or what is it, like the cloud slime, like different textures. You could even do things like making a volcano or a slime kit where it involves them touching different textures. And, sometimes for our kids that don't like to touch the food, right? If we can get, there's play sand we can do, like kinetic sand, things that we could start to work on that tactile piece without making it about food, right? So these are non-food toys that happen to involve sensory things. So for example, that sand might be getting them used to like crumbs, right, on their hands, feeling that rougher texture. It could be that slime is going to have that feeling of like wet, right? So if they don't like touching wet foods, right, you're getting them used to it with that sort of slime. It's like a jello-y type feeling, right? But you can see what I mean about how you can, you know, go into their sensory system with toys, working on it in a non-food way, and then transitioning it then to food, right? Um, okay, also games. I have a whole blog post of different games based on their ages, all different games. So we have a bunch of these. I don't know if you've ever played. There's a Yeti in My Spaghetti. There's Feed the Woozle. They're just games that kind of talk about food. There's Pancake Pile Up. There's just there's just a lot of games that involve food just by default. And your child probably isn't going to initially make that connection that, like, wow, I got a lot of food themed things. They're just going to see boxes of toys and slime and games and things that, all of the other kids are getting, but you might have just more intentionally thought that through and you're specifically targeting things that are going to, you know, help improve that sensory response that we could use with food and talking about food, right? So if you're playing games that revolve talking about food, that's a good transition to then say, oh, well, let's do a real life version of this game with real food. Like Pancake Pile Up is a great, easy game. Yes, they're pretend pancakes, but how easy is it to just then have the real pancakes that you make and you can play the same game, right? So there are ways to transition from the game to the food. And it starts in a very non-threatening way, in a fun way. The other thing I love is books about food, right? So getting books is always awesome. And there's lots of really cool books that have like all of the lift the flap type of things. Now, if your kids are used to never getting books, that would probably be harder for them. I know kids that never get books for for holidays, and I know kids that get tons of books for holidays, right? But it depends on what they're expecting. But I find I love giving books for holidays, and there is like I'll show you an example. Um, there's like a book called What Happens When You Eat, and but there it's from Usborne, which is I don't know if you've ever been to like a book party, but that's like usually what the book party is. But they have you can buy them on Amazon too. It doesn't matter. Like pages of like lift the flap, what happens to food. And so you can learn, but there's also like kind of funny stories that you can get as well. Even things like think about it, the Very Hungry Caterpillar is about food. But I have a list on the blog post about by age. So there's food books, but they don't have to be baby books, right? There's all different ages and stages of different types of books that are talking about food or focusing on food. We love oh gosh, there's the Stinky Stench book. That's a funny one that kids love. They love a Munch is like a little monster that munches and eats things. There's just a bunch of books. There's a ton of things you can get. So those are some great ideas, I think, that might help get the conversation about food going outside of the dinner table. It's really easy for kids to shut down any talk of food, anything besides their favorites. They have serious tunnel vision and fear when it comes to food, right? If that is your kid, going this other route, his sort of back doorway of playing with toys, reading stories, playing with slime, making like lava volcano things, getting like the sand, kinetic sand, colored sand, are great ways to get kids their sensory system, and then we could start to mix and incorporate our, food with the whatever the toy or book is. So there is a way, like, it's not like we're just going to stay isolated in that, right? You always kind of maybe think about it as like, well, how can we transition from this book or this game or this toy to, right, something in the kitchen? And, for that, I would definitely consult your feeding therapist or like me, your feeding coach to enlist and get some ideas going with that, right? We can definitely troubleshoot, help you with some ideas. In our parent course, Unlocking Meal Times, you understand your child's sensory profile, their oral motor skills. Oh my goodness, how could I forget? So oral motor wise, you can get like the Sensi or the Z Vibe, or sometimes they make those little vibrating bears or vibrating toothbrushes, things to help stimulate the oral motor, right? So when you use something sensory like that vibrates or feels bumpy, it also stimulates the muscles, right? So if that's something that at some point you want to, or that your child is going to struggle with, getting like the silly straw set from Talk Tools is really fun. And that is working on tongue retraction and lip rounding and suction, right? So you can work on skills oral motor wise with some of those tools, but it's also has that double duty of, okay, well, we're also working towards better oral motor skills like chewing and tongue lateralization and, bolus formation, forming that ball of food in the center of the tongue. So those are some great oral motor things you could do. Um, and for mindset, I love books. Books are great about, being brave, about doing hard things, about, positive talk, like the magical, was it The Magical Me or My Magical Words is a great book. My Magical Words is about like how your words help shape your future, right? So if you're always talking negatively, negative types of things, you're going to have more to complain about versus if you're always trying to have positive growth mindset, then you're going to see things in a more positive light, right? And you're going to have more positive experiences. So trying to teach our kids that And then you could always, even if the book isn't about food, bringing it back to food, just like how sometimes you get a little bit nervous about trying new foods, right? You can try to apply the lessons of some of those growth mindset books to your child and food, right? You could always bring it back on your own, even if the book isn't talking about food. So those are my suggestions. And if you want to dive deeper with this, if you are like this is the last year that we are doing this nonsense. We are not going to continue to be unhealthy. We're not going to continue to only eat 4 foods. We are changing this. If you are motivated and dedicated to that, Unlocking Mealtimes is an amazing program that can help take fearful all the way to foodie. Okay, so I have developed a really short quiz at the pickyeaterstest.com. And this quiz will help tell you what type of eater your child is. And then we start to give you those next steps. So we have a free video on YouTube you could watch about our program and how to take the next steps and what that would look like. You can book a call in with me if you're unsure if it's the right program or fit for you. And 2025 could be the year that we turn it around and we get started and we start rolling with new foods. My parents that started the program, I changed the name this year from Picky Plate to Clean Slate to Unlocking Mealtimes. But the parents that started last year with Picky Plate to Clean Slate, their kids are now trying foods, eating new foods. A lot of them have gone from fearful to foodie or fearful to our curious level, which is right below foodie. And that's amazing, right? So if you have been struggling with this, let's make 2025 your year, because you don't have to go another year struggling with this problem. We're here to help. All right. We've got a lot of resources, and you have to be willing to do the work, do the lessons, implement the changes, right? It's not like if you just watch the videos, close the book, don't change anything, it's going to work. But if you're ready to do some work, if you're ready to learn, we can transform you. I'm really excited and I'm really proud about that. But again, got to be willing to do that work. Otherwise, I cannot make any promises. But I'm really excited for all of our parents, and I want to celebrate them and congratulate them for all of the success and the hard work they put in this year to make their child's transformations happen, because it was not me, it was them. It was all of the parents who did the work. And these were parents who told me that they couldn't do it, that they needed someone else to sit with their child and do the program. And, that's just not how our program works. It's the parents doing the work. And not only did they come out the other side more confident in themselves, but so much prouder of themselves, because I remember, this one mom said, we had started, we were in feeding therapy. We started with it. But at some point I did stop because I realized I knew exactly what to do. And that just made my heart explode, because it's like, yeah, you do know what to do. And that's the beauty of it, is that you learn what to do so that you become the expert on your child, right? You know exactly the next steps to take. But we are here to guide you until you get to that point where you can sort of fly on your own, right? So if this sounds like something you're interested in, you could always start at the pickyeaterstest.com, or you can go straight to our website, foodologyfeeding.com/courses, and learn about the program there and sign up there and enroll as well. And you can get started today. All right. Well, we will see you soon. If not in the course, we will see you next week, same time, same place, for our last episode of the season. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.